representatives of the UK High Commission, the EU, and our supporters. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is being expected, and seated right behind him is Professor Autunde, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you and welcome you to this very important event in Nigeria's response to climate change. And on a lighter note, sir, this is one of the richest gatherings that the National Council on Climate Change is having, with the whole complement of 3 ministers and a representative of the SGF. This is clearly an indication of the seriousness that Nigeria has given to the issue of climate change, has been advocated for by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm also glad to report that for this event, I was able to reunite with somebody from the EU that has been working with Nigeria in other World Bank projects or in other climate change activities. Mr. Maximo, it's a pleasure having you. Once again, I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the National Stakeholder Workshop on the review of our participation in the largest gathering on climate change under the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP28, which is Conference to the Parties, number 28, that took place in Dubai. The opportunities that the outcomes afford and its implications for the country were also considered, and that is part of what we will be discussing with all of you in order to give you the appropriate current status of what Nigeria is doing with respect to the COP. This event is hosted by the National Council on Climate Change with active support from the EU delegation in Nigeria. And on this part, I want to sincerely acknowledge and also report to the honorable ministers that the EU has been working with the National Council on Climate Change in several programs, including the support for this unpacking of COP28. And we do appreciate all the efforts that has come from the EU delegation in Nigeria. The Conference of Parties of the UNFCCC is the supreme governing body that convenes annually to assess progress in dealing with climate change and make plans for climate change action at the global level and also at the national level.
The presence of Nigeria at the COP28, as you know, was quite important and produced very important outcomes. For us as European Union, we are really proud and grateful for the support that Nigeria gave to our initiative to triple the efforts with regard to renewable energy and to double the efforts with regard to energy efficiency. We are also very grateful and happy that we could work together on a positive outcome, establishing the fund for loss and damage. This is really a critical instrument for emerging countries that really face the weight of climate change well beyond their means. And this fund, we believe, will be important to attract, first of all, attention to those situations where climate change is really proving how evil it is, especially when it hits really countries and populations well beyond their means to respond.
And when women have not benefited from anything you are doing, that thing has failed. Trust me. That's why everything the donors have been doing, they've been trying, but poverty kept on increasing because you've not gone to the right places to.
And we know that COP is a cycle and a key part of the international process to tackling climate change around the world. But the work isn't all done at the international level. Some of it absolutely is. But the implementation has to be done in country, and that's why we're all here today. It's easy to think of this as a technical event, that it's for the climate experts, but as we know, climate change is an issue that impacts everyone. In Nigeria this year in February, we faced extreme heat. I absolutely felt it. I'm not made for those temperatures. It was well over 40 degrees. The impacts to people's health was apparent. We've got increased risk of dehydration, heat stroke, stress, blood pressure, but it also impacts already stretched infrastructure such as energy, transport and water, and affects us all on a day-to-day level.
Notice that while there is progress made, there is still much more to be done in order to accelerate the mitigation and adaptation actions and ensure the right financing and technical support to be able to meet the ambitious targets.
Nigeria is a developing country and we have our challenges here. How do we transit from fossil to renewable energy? We have a target of carbon neutrality of 2050, which is roughly 26 years. And what that means is that there has to be a sense of urgency. Being the chairman of House Committee on Climate Change, I will do everything within my office to ensure that we lend support to the efforts in mitigating the climate change issue that we have in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
That GST, Global Stocktake, also provided a list of ambitious actions that are needed to keep the temperature increase below 1.5 degrees centigrade, in line with the Paris Agreement. It is therefore critical to note that these actions include unprecedented reference to transitioning away from fossil fuels.
I took active part in the discussion that took place among various of stakeholders in Dubai, not only as a legislator, but as an authority on climate change. I wish to put it on notice that I have my PhD on energy from University of Ibadan, and I took active part at the program. When negative press focused on the size of the Nigerian delegation to the conference, I take the firm view that the attendance of government officials, civil societies, private attendance of government officials, private individuals were likely worth the effort, expenses, and time. Nigeria attract commitments, pledges, and partnership worth over $300 million at the program. A notable one is the $150 million lithium deal with a Chinese development company for the establishment of a lithium battery manufacturing and processing factory in Nigeria in the second quarter of this year. It is also evident that Nigeria has taken a cue from the concern raised at the conference about the climate change to being embracing changes that will key into what is now known as UAE consensus, which commits the world to transition away from fossil fuel to reach net zero in a just, fair, and equitable manner. The advent CNG buses for mass transit in Nigeria is a testament to this commitment in Nigeria. It may seem a slow step, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step.
Reaffirm our commitment to collective action, solidarity, and justice. knowing that decisions we make today will shape the world we live for the future generation.
I would like to address one of the culprits of climate change, which is gas emission. And that is why my agency, Rural Electrification Agency, try to concentrate our projects mostly on renewable energy as our way of tackling and bringing progress into addressing this issue. Climate change and rural electrification are closely intertwined, and the Rural Electrification Agency plays a crucial role in addressing both challenges. Rural electrification, facilitated by REA, holds immense potential to mitigate the impacts of climate change while simultaneously exchanging energy access and socio-economic development in rural communities especially. By promoting the deployment of renewable energy technologies such as solar energy, wind energy, and other renewable energy initiatives, we use this as a way of reducing dependence on fossil fuels and contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gas emission. This transition to clean energy and sustainable energy sources not only helps combat climate change, but also foster resilience against its adverse effects in vulnerable rural areas.
Distinguished guests, esteemed stakeholders, partners in environmental sustainability, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to this national workshop for reviewing outcomes of the 28th session of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework for Convention on Climate Change. This gathering symbolizes our shared commitment to confronting one of the greatest challenges of our time, which is climate. We are also here to unpack the significant outcome of COP28, as well as set the stage for Nigeria's active participation at the 29th Conference of Parties in Azerbaijan. During this review, today we'll also collectively identify and prioritize our focus areas that will drive our nation's environmental agenda in the future. The 20th conference marked a milestone in our global effort to address climate change. It provides a platform for dialogue, negotiation, consensus building among nations. COP28 reaffirmed our collective determination to tackle the essential threat caused by climate change, which has been clearly itemized by most of the speakers here, particularly the view raised by the British High Commission on the issue of this year's heat. It's quite unprecedented this year's heat, because we find that what happened in Nigeria compared to what we saw in Kuwait, in Dubai, and other places. So I think there's a dramatic change in terms of weather in Nigeria. Starting from February up to today, the weather has been very, very hot, not only for her, but for all of us. I think we need to look at what is the cause of that change in our weather patterns. It's imperative that we foster a spirit of collaboration, unity, shared responsibility, and commitment toward advance Nigeria's environmental goals. As we review and reflect on the outcome of COP28, we must also critically assess and identify successes, shortcomings, and areas of improvement. Nigeria, like most other countries, is feeling the adverse impact of climate change, ranging from extreme weather events, which we are witnessing now, rising sea levels, a lot of erosion around the coastal lines, loss of biodiversity, and other negative effects that affect our daily lives. As a nation, we have a responsibility to take action toward a more sustainable and resilient future for our people and our environment. This workshop will provide us with a valuable opportunity to engage in purposeful dialogue, exchange innovative ideas, and co-create actionable strategies that will steer Nigeria towards a path of sustainable development and environmental integrity. Let us see this opportunity to rise to the occasion, to take up the challenge. Let us
collectively pave the way for a greener and more sustainable Nigeria. At this juncture, it is my honor and privilege to open this workshop. I assume it has been open all along, but I think they have asked me to open the workshop like the Minister of Women Affairs said, sometimes you have to go along with the speech they write for you. Unlike her, I'm not going to throw it away, but I'll have to. So I think at this juncture, I want to declare this workshop open, and I want to appreciate all of you that are here, and I want also urge you to participate effectively and be as frank as possible, because I feel that the only way we can achieve what our goal in the area environment is to be as frank as possible. Where we're not doing well, please tell us. Don't even bother to tell us where we're doing well, because I think that is taken for granted. Tell us where we're not doing well so we can try to improve on what we're trying to do. And let's also try to come up with concrete resolution, concrete suggestion, or recommendation for the federal government so that we can now use that as a foundation for attending the next COP. It shouldn't be just a jamboree for us to just go there, a large number of people run around Azerbaijan like we did in Dubai. Let us try to see that that run around has been transformed into concrete, actionable position that you can now take along. So thank you very much for your participation, and I hope that this will be a very good outcome that will now guide our next step, which is COP29.